Good day, everyone. Welcome to another series of training. This is your consultant, SAP consultant, Adiele Kelechi. So we're going to be continuing with the series of training we've been looking at for SAP master data. And in our previous session, we have looked at what master data is all about. We also looked at how to create a customer master data. Please try to visit our channel. If you need more information about these courses, you can, why not, get in touch with me through my YouTube channel, Adiele Kelechi, for more videos and trainings, subsequent videos. You can also send me an email, WhatsApp me on the number on your screen. And actually reach out to you. Also for training, certification, course support. If you have any issues, we could assist you to provide information or support as the case may be. So feel free to reach out to us, and we'll be in touch with you. This series we've been looking at customer master data. In previous sessions, we talked about the master data. We talked about the integration between FI and ST. We actually went about to create customer master data, and also for this session, we're basically looking at how to create a customer invoice. Very, very important. Very, very important how to create a customer invoice. And we're going to continue this class by creating, just as a refresher, create a customer master data with reference to what we did in our previous session, then going to creating a customer invoice. Now, in SAP, you can create customer invoice in your FI level, which is your accounting level. You can create invoice at the SD level. However, in this session, we're going to be looking at focusing more on creating invoices at the FI level. So we're going to see what invoices are, how to create an invoice, how to change an invoice, how to edit an invoice, how to display an invoice, and how to make attachments to an invoice, and of course, check process and workflow of an invoice. Actually, it is worthy to note that, like I was explaining, invoices are created both in FI and in ST. For this class, the invoice we're going to be creating is FI based. However, we're just going to look at the difference. We're going to display an SD invoice and display an FI invoice, so you just see what they look like if my configuration is in SD is actually complete. Okay, so that's what we're going to be looking at in this session. Look at the processes of creating an invoice, and look at some other invoice requirements. Okay, sorry, let me just get my SAP running. Okay, so to create an invoice in SAP, the FI level, the transaction code is FP70. Or you can go through the menu path. You can also save this as favorite. Please, for master data, always or make sure you refer to our previous session. So I'm just going to wait for this. Okay, so this is what a customer invoice looks like in FI, and of course the accompanying code that is on is open a new screen. Okay, the transaction code to create an SD invoice is VA01. Sorry, this is a sales order VF01. It's actually used for billing, so just wait for this to run. VA01 is to create a sales order, which is a prelude to an invoice, but let's go back. So VF01, billing. So in SAP, documents that you use to invoice your customer is actually called the billing document, not an invoice document. So basically, for your billing, billing precedes a sales order. Whatever we're doing here, for example, let me check for an existing sales order, because billing just makes sure that the sales order is confirmed and that the transaction is due for billing. So let me go to VA01 just briefly. Let's put another type. Okay, select this. Okay, see. I need to also work on some of the configurations here. Just a second, some this is coming up. So basically, the essence of this is to make you appreciate SAP in a much more wider scope, so that as an FI user, you don't just know what the FI is, you can also appreciate what the SD user or the consultant actually, how he actually does his own function, even as an FI person. Also for the FI, for the SD person, it's also good knowledge for you to know that invoices are not just created on your end, it can also be created at the FI end. But the difference, basic difference between these two invoices is that the FI invoice doesn't go through the order to cash cycle, and immediately you process an FI invoice, it goes directly to the GLs. While the SD invoice goes through series of processes, which we call the order to cash cycle. For example, you can see that what I opened is actually more like a sales order, promotion order. This is actually what the sales order looks like. So you don't just do billing, it's also visible, but the sales process goes through a cycle, probably from contract to petition to sales order to shipping, picking, billing, course, some of these processes also happen the MM side, like the daily, like the picking. But basically, the processes are the start from the sales order to confirmation of this order to billing. The billing side, it automatically that's the point where it hits the FI area where the customer the transaction actually generates um, the receivable, and you know, like I said, FIAR is the side of receivable that now handles, takes over that transaction until when the customer makes the payment. So this is how the SD portion looks like. You can see that with the SD invoice, of course, the header part takes the FI, most of what is created at the FI level. Okay, sorry, the sales area level when we're doing XK01, which is sold to party. You have the material which is gotten from the MM side. Um, Also, the master data that is entered at the FI level picks information like the item, like the shipping information, and other information that is directly linked to this particular customer, which is your sole party. So let's go back to, like we said, for this session, we're going to be focusing on the FI invoice. In subsequent sessions, we're going to be looking at the order to cash cycle and follow through with how sales actually happens at the SD side. This is just for knowledge use. Okay, so we're back to our FI invoice. The transaction code to enter your customer invoice in FI is FB70. Put that. The first thing you do is to check and make sure your company code you intend to make this transaction to is the company code that is actually on your document. So you can see the company code here is Moon, but the company code where we maintain this customer is in SD01. You have to set your company code and say okay. Also, the next thing is to search for the customer you want to invoice. So take the drop down. Like I said, in your search, you can, the list are not so much, you can just remove this maximum hits. You can search by name, Historics, Samsung. Say okay, picks the customer that has that, and of course the customer number is reflected. The next is the date, so I can have, let's say, this is this, depending on the posting period that is actually open. Now, your invoice dates can be different from your posting date. When you get the invoice from this customer, can be different from when you actually posted this transaction in SAP. So you could have gotten the invoice at the close of business or hit your email. When that's the invoice date, the date that is reflective on that invoice, the date you receive that invoice. The posting date is the date you're actually posting that transaction into SAP. So we have this, just so it was actually posted on the next day. Reference, you can reference with the invoice number. If special GLs have to do with down payments, it's not applicable. I confirm the amount on the invoice. Let's say the amount is 350. Let's say $400,000. Of course, the master data for this customer was actually in USD. You have the option of calculating VAT, which is your tax. You can select the tax option if you want to select the tax. You You can see that this period is not open. So let's check the next period. Okay, let's check this. Oh, number range is missing. So I'm going to just clear these number range issues immediately. Just a second. Okay, so that's error has been sorted out. Actually, what happened was that in our previous session, we talked about the number range configuration. There was actually no number range tied to the invoice for the year 2021. So that's actually was challenged. So I had to go to the back to configuration area, implementation area, to assign a number range to that fiscal year, and also assign the number range to the invoice document to enable me to process the transaction. So when you're actually, if you have any difficulty processing any of the transactions, please kindly contact your consultant to make sure that error is rectified. So we can add a brief text here. You can say servicing vehicle. So in your invoice, you select the GL. Like I said, in FI, you don't select things, you don't select materials. Unlike in your ST, where you have to select materials that was actually maintained by the team. So in your FI invoice, they go straight to the GLs. So you're most likely going to select a GL account that's actually going to, post to this invoice. So the accounting behind the scene will be that this customer that has been generated, this invoice will be debited because the current assets for debtors have to increase. So we're going to actually select a service which is going to be debited. So you can search by clicking the drop down. What are you searching? You're searching the list of your accounts, your ledgers, for the ledger that is service that can actually fit for this transaction. Or it could be, when I say a service, of course, an income generating GL. Click on the drop down. Let me see if this would be okay. Sales ST. Let's see if this will go. So I'm going to click on that. Also confirm if we have, okay. We have all tax. Let's see. Filters. Tax is calculated. So account is not tax relevant. Okay, so it's fine. Account requires a CEO object. This is actually a configuration that was done behind the scene. All GLs are configured to meet certain specifications. So this GL is requesting that we assign this revenue also to a cost center. So let's say this cost center is for sales. Enter, confirm. So this is actually checking all other configurations to make sure that this invoice is okay for posting. Okay, so an entry field cost center is not permitted. Okay, so let's see what the issue would be here. Okay, I think it has issues with the, let me move this first. So these are some of the issues you might face. Basically, these are configurations that have happened, and the system is actually trying to fit into those configurations. First of all, since this is not relevant for tax, let me remove this. Okay, still requires a C object. I'm going to use a C object that is relevant for this. If this actually, okay, let me see this, hide this to admin. Okay, SD is blocked against revenue posting on this. Okay, so we have some major issues here. Okay, so this cost center has been blocked. So that's what it's trying to say. Okay. Just going to try just to save our time, and I'll also change the company code because this is actually going through some. This is not permitted. So basically, these cost centers have issues. So I am going to do something. I'm just going to go back. So you can cancel from here. I'm going to run this transaction code again. FB70. Okay, so I'm going to change this company code because definitely have some configuration issues we need to deal with. So, purpose of this class, I'm going to be using C. Okay. Okay, let me use Zoom. Okay, so I'm going to select customers for Zoom. Write the posting dates. Provide the reference. So say 001. Provide the amount of GL. Okay, this one, you see now that the currency has changed based on the master data. So I'm going to select Zoom. So just sort this out. I need to get an account that is just okay for me. Okay. Just a second, getting GL. Okay, let's let me check this. Okay, so we have this here. We want to provide amounts. Enter to validate. So okay, this period is not open. I need to check the periods. Okay. Okay, let me check. So okay, so I need to check this periods. Get back. So I'm just going to check open periods. Okay, it's actually at the back end. So let me do that. So I'm just going to check my posting periods to check why that information is actually there. So variance is okay. You can see why. Okay. Check my variance. Okay. Okay. It's variance. Variance exists. So I'm supposed to check for moon here. Okay, so my open period for assets, customers. Okay, okay, let's confirm that now. Okay, so I'm going to run this again. Sorry for that. But actually, these are some of the issues we face as consultants. And if you aspire to be a consultant or you're already a consultant, you should understand when we get these issues, we have to look for solutions for them. So I realized that in the company code Zoom we were using, the period was not maintained properly. My intention was to use the company code Moon. So I selected Moon as a company code, selected the customer, selected my period, which is open, enter to validate, previous, okay. So 1 is my reference with the amount. Also, you have to check for the available income account for me. Okay, so I can do okay, let's just say this. Let's do 15. Confirm if that is relevant, requires a CEO object. Now, if this is not relevant for VAT, I need to do that. So I need to change this. This is supposed to be new. Select sales. Validate to check. So it's fine. You can select your tax and you can see the taxes that are available. So tax. Okay. So I think there's a problem with the description. It's actually supposed to be impute tax. So confirm, simulate. Now, after confirming, I'll just have to explain. So what we did was to provide the customer the date. We also ticked on the calculate tax area. Of course, we have an error here that the transaction code key for this is not available. So I'm going to do something about that. This has to do with the ledger we selected. So we're just going to remove that. Get a ledger that is suitable for this. Let's just use it. We can create a new GL, but that we will learn when we talk about the GL. Let's just say this is crediting logistics. This is 450. So this is not relevant for tax. We need to get this out. Okay. Fine. Let's go back. Provide the cost center for this. Let's say it's close to equations. I think this is okay. This is fine. Go back. This is okay. Okay, so we have a cost center, we have a business area that's been assigned to this. The amount is 450, the line item is 450. We're assuming that we're actually crediting this these credits. Let's see. Okay, crediting, we're reducing this expense, and just for example, anyway, I'll actually have to create a chart of accounts for sales to be able to record this transaction. Okay, let me see if I can just do that in a second. Because I might not explain this, I might just have to do this when we. So I'm going to the GL account master just to create a chart of accounts for sales, so I can use that to do what I need to do. Okay, so doesn't exist, so it's fine. So small. It's great. So this is general sales. We're going to teach you how to do this, so don't bother. Let's teach you how to create your GLs. This is for me. It's key. So, pixels here. Save this. So the number is 3033. The account type, P&L. Okay, so that's the issue. Save this again. Okay, so this data is saved. So we have the general sales account 3033. So I'm just going to go back to the invoice 3033, confirm the amount of 50. Can put here general sales. This is not open for tax. Also confirming the text. Okay, so we're done with that. You can see now that first of all, the amount is okay, the balance is in green. If, for example, the amount has some difference, you see, it's going to actually create, give you error message that means that the balance is not the same. The amount here, so the amount at the header document should be the same as the amount in the line item. Very, very important. So basically, every document in SAP is divided into two areas. We have the header document and the line item. The header document contains basically information key information about that document. The line item contains the transactional data. Where there are discrepancies between the header and the line item, you're going to have an error message. So you see, I've changed it and you said it is now good. If you go to the payment side of the header, you could see the baseline date, which is when it's going to start calculating uh, the date for your payment terms. The payment terms is the payment terms that is maintained in the customer master data. You have other options like payment currency, payment block. You can block this invoice for payments until it's approved. You have the details tab that tells you the GL account, the sub GL. Like I said, when you're creating a master data, it first of all goes to the sub GL and the receipt actually does the clearing. You also have your reference key. So let's say this reference key for this invoice, since it's a service invoice, so let's say service for okay. Another reference key is the state where it was done. Another reference key 3 is so we have the car, which is let's say change this. We have the location and we have the probably the people who service this. So we can say Fox. Okay. We can allow, if you click here, it won't allow negative posting. So you can go to the tax area, you can see the tax code that is relevant for this, which is your this is supposed to be the input tax. Sorry for this, there's wrong description. The tax code is correct, but the description is wrong. You correct that. Go to the notes, you can add notes for sales and new price. And we can also view the currency and the exchange rate. So this is the amount in book currency, and this is the amount in hard currency, which is the exchange, the second currency. So of course we have the home currency, we have the book currency, and we have the hard currency. We have 3 currencies, major currencies in SAP. So these are very important document headers you need to know. Also in the line item, we provided the GL generated the text. This line is called debit and credit. Like I said, the debtor's account or the customer account is going to be debited and the income account here is going to be credited. So that's why this line is automatically on credit. Make sure. Okay, it's being recorded. Okay, so you have your text, you have the company code, you have the business area. You can check if you have any business area here based on configuration. So, okay, you have marketing, business area. You have a cost center. This is not relevant for cost center. You have requested for that. We have the plants. Also, we have the profit center. This was not actually tied, so we can select this as a profit center. And these are all other very important line item requirements depending on the kind of transaction you're posting and depending on what is relevant. So this is that. When you're done with posting, you're entering the details and confirming that everything is right. Of course, this gives you the basic details about this customer. You can click simulate. Simulate is to check the transaction and run it for you to confirm that the GL postings behind the scene are all okay. So you have the item number, the posting keys. In future sessions, we have a class that will talk about the document type and the posting keys. Make sure you subscribe to our channel to get updates on videos in this area. You have the GL accounts, the account that actually does this posting that the transaction is going to be posted to. You have the description of this account. You have the tax code. You have the amount. When we talk about the GL, the customer line item analysis, you're going to know more about this report. So we're good. We're also going to talk about packing and holding transactions in subsequent sessions. I'm just going to save this. So, of course, like I said, every document posted will generate a document number, which we use to track that transaction throughout its life in SAP, a unique number. So we have our unique number, 3 with a lot of zeros. So this is our document number for this invoice. Okay, let's go back to our, see if we have any other thing to talk about. Okay, so we have actually created an invoice, we've entered transaction code, we've looked at basic data, entered the customer number, the date, what's the amount, which is subject to tax, payment terms. So those are the basic steps, and we have our document number. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is how do I display documents? How do I display? How can I change this invoice in case um, this document have issues? So if you save your document and you're still within the screen, you can go to the menu bar, click on document, you see the options. So the first option we're going to look at, so it's either you use this option or you use the transaction code FB02 to display, FB03 to display any document. Actually, FB02 is to change any document in SAP as long as it has a document number. FB03 is to display any document in SAP as long as it has a document number. So it's either you're going through the menu path, as long as this document is open, so we're going to display, or you use the transaction code. So this is now displayed. You can see the transaction, profit center, the segments. Now, it's also important that I explain this icon for you called services for objects. Now, this services for objects is can be used for two very important purposes. Number one is can be used to attach documents. So let's say it is part of the company's requirements that before this invoice will be approved, documents will need to be attached and reviewed in SAP. So the icon we use to attach documents to your transaction is the service for object. So when that transaction is in a display or change mode, you click your service for object, go to create, and you can add a note, an external document URL. You can store a business document or you can attach a document. So it's very, very important. This is area where you attach documents to invoices. Also, your consultants are actually going to also explain to you how the workflow configurations were done. But if you want to display the workflow overview of any document, you go to workflow and you go to workflow. Now, what's the essence of the workflow? Workflow based on configuration shows who is supposed to approve this document if this document was actually set as blocked. So if this document is blocked for processing, you use the workflow overview to display who is authorized to release the document for posting. This is configuration specific, so it depends on how your company actually perform those configurations for your use. Also, of course, you can double click on the line item. You can drill down to get more information about that particular document. This is line item. You can see the transaction code FP03 shows that we're in the change document. You have other options like the color of document overview. You have the header. The header shows you basic details about who posted this transaction, the document type, the time it was posted, the day, the transaction code that was used to post that transaction. If you go to additional data, also going to show you payment method, planning date, the group currency, hard currency, and of course your reference keys. We will talk more about analysis of customers in our next session. Okay, so the same thing, we can go to document and change, or however, you have limits to what you can change in a document. You cannot change the header information, but you can change most information in line items, payment terms, baseline dates, text, and all that. Okay, if you go to document, okay, let's go back. Go to document, you can pack, you can hold, you can simulate in GL level. The concept of packing and holding will also be treated in the next session. So stay tuned to our channel, subscribe, and follow up on subsequent trainings that will be released as we proceed. So this has been saved. Just go back. Okay, so basically, this is how to post your invoice in SAP using the FI transaction. So in our class, we're going to look at more business demonstration. And don't miss the session for invoice analysis. We're going to run line items for our invoices, create more invoices, run the line item, and actually see how we're also going to look at reporting in our next session, look at some other standard transactions. We have done vendor master data. We have actually done posting an invoice. The next will be to do a receipt, and of course do other transactions like clearing and displaying documents, and if you need to reset transactions, if you need to reverse transactions, we're going to look at that as standard transactions in our next session. We also have reports, AR reports. And, so thank you for spending time with us. We are actually rounding up this session. We have learned how to create a customer invoice and also how to change, how to edit, and how to run, make some few drill down into the line items to see basic details about that transaction. Stay tuned for our next session. Our next session, we are going to be looking at receiving from customers. And we're also going to be looking at some standard transactions like clearing and resetting transactions in SAP. I'm also going to be displaying some of the ARO reports. Thank you very much for your time. You can reach us. Please go to our YouTube channel and subscribe and share this video. Don't keep this knowledge to yourself. Share it, let other people also learn from you. You can reach out through our WhatsApp number, or you can email us if you have information or inquiries on training, support, certifications, whatever question. Also, if you have more information about this video, why not write to us? We'll be very happy to get a feedback from you. So thank you for your time. Get your feedbacks to us. We'll most be appreciative of it. Have a lovely day. Thank you.